Hi there, I'm Dr. Neal Bhatia. I'm Chief Medical Editor of Practical Dermatology. This is another installment of the Practical Dermatology podcast, and I'm with one of my favorite people on earth, Dr. Collin Blattner from Portlandia, Oregon. Collin, welcome.
Thanks, Neal.
This is what are we going to call this? The War Zone. Give us the title that you just made up.
We're going to call it the War Zone, private practice.
Private practice, the War Zone. I mean, this is basically, and again, I give you the credit. You are one of the last of the frontiermen who have set up private practice in such a way that you have made something that is totally sustainable, can still work, and yet maybe one day will be something somebody will want to offer you some money for.
God willing.
God willing.
God willing.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started in Oregon and the method of building as many offices and successful offices as you have.
I got started in 2020 after I got out of fellowship. COVID happened, and most of the other dermatologists in the state were shut down. So I decided to go out on my own in this little rural town about 80 miles east of Portland called The Dalles, Oregon. And the hospital CEO actually called me, and he said, we just had a dermatologist leave, and you could rent her office. And he said, we'd love you to be an employee of the hospital. And I said, I'm going to take you up on one of those two things. I'd love to rent her office, but I want to run my own shop.
Yeah.
So that was how I started my own private practice in July, I think 5th of 2020. 2020 was the first day I saw patients. So COVID happened February, March, and that was how I started. I just started going and immediately.
But you started in the right way because you went where the demand was.
I went where the demand was. Yeah, I did not go to New York or LA or Chicago. The town I was in, there was 20,000 people, but it had a large catchment area because it would draw from basically 100 miles east of where it was.
Yep.
And I caught all of the other little surrounding outlying communities. And within 2 weeks, I was seeing, 40 or 50 patients every day.
Oh, I can imagine. Exactly. Because they probably were waiting to find someone within an easy drive rather than...
Within an easy drive, because they didn't want to drive another 80 miles to Portland.
Exactly. And be seen by a system. Here they could be seen by a dermatologist.
Yeah,
right.
That's correct, right?
That being said, and I think the point comes back to go to where you want to work versus where you want to live, which is the opposite of where we're seeing residents coming out of training now. They want to all live in the cities.
It's very, very different now. They all want to work 4 days a week. They want to live in a big city. All of the amenities.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, those areas are really saturated. So.
But it's simple economics, right? You go where the demand is.
It's simple supply and demand.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And if you go to where the access is better for getting to patients quickly, and you can be their guy, you can still figure out, a way to not only have a good living, but also be comfortable in managing the practices.
Yeah.
Right? Especially multiple sites. So that builds the next question. It is, how do you, as obviously the owner or the boss, how do you manage multiple sites with many employees? What's your hierarchy and algorithm for management?
So I've got a practice administrator who directly reports to me. Under her, I've got head of HR, head of revenue cycle management. We've got 2 regional managers that report to my practice administrator. Under the regional managers, each office has an office manager. And then under the office manager, we have a lead medical assistant. So I've kind of make it a hierarchy pyramid.
Exactly.
Where everyone knows who they report to.
Yeah.
And that's the only way. You have to structure it in a way where everything is set up exactly the same in each of the offices. If you look in one of my exam drawers in the Dalles, it's going to have the same things that we have in Lake Oswego. Mm-hmm. It's going to be set up exactly the same.
Exactly.
Because everything is systematized, right? If I'm going to go and open an office, I have the same opening office order, right? If we're going to apply for a CLEAT license, it's the same thing. We have the same paperwork. Everything is done, rinse, wash, repeat.
Exactly.
Rinse, wash, repeat, right?
And that way you could also have employees come in, maybe they could follow you to different sites, or vice versa, that you could be plug and play where you need to be.
Yep.
And everything is the same.
Yep.
And that makes patient care
That makes patient care easier, especially if you need to travel. That's the hardest thing, I think, for a lot of younger dermatologists. if you want to be busy, you may have to travel more than you want to.
Yeah. So, I mean, my obviously I'm older than you are by many years. My path was similar. I started my own place, but I was in the city. I was the opposite of what you're doing in Oregon. Obviously, Oregon has more opportunities to be spread out than where I was in Wisconsin. But I had to eventually sell my practice because my referral bases of primary care and everybody else were being squashed by hospital systems and consolidation. So when you're making yourself available and you could be actually somewhat indispensable, does that make you an attractive potential purchase for someone of, let's say, consolidation or private equity or hospital system or what have you?
I think it makes you more attractive, but I also think it makes them more cautious because they know the tail, like you experienced, right? What if the hospital went and brought in their own dermatologist, right?
Yeah, sure.
What if the hospital went in and brought in their own dermatology nurse practitioner or PA, right? We're seeing this happening. So I think there is a certain amount of benefit with a practice like mine, but there's also a certain amount of risk.
Very much so. And to sustain yourself and not have to worry about being bought out, obviously the billing and the overhead. I mean, you're watching that constantly.
Yeah, you have to watch every single month. You need to look at your accounts receivable and make sure that your RCM is correct. You have to make sure that the front desk is collecting the co-pays, the deductibles, the co-insurance, and there's a lot of training that goes into those positions, right?
And a lot of sleepless nights wondering, is everything being collected?
Of course.
Does anyone have a hand in the cookie jar? And even more so, like, are we going to make payroll? Are we going to make pay our bills and everything else?
Of course.
What fail-safes do you have in place that maybe would be a deterrent to embezzling in the office, or even more so that you're not having that risk?
I have an independent auditor audit all of our books quarterly, and I think that's the way you keep everyone honest.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have not just your practice administrator or your own CPA doing it. You have to have an independent auditor, and I recommend doing that quarterly, just because that's a way to minimize the damage. You don't want to wait till the end of the year.
Right. And what about just thinking in terms of if you had to mentor someone along, or whether it be you're taking them on in your practice, or even, let's say you had to teach a class today on how to start a practice from the ground up and run it. What pearls would you give to anyone out there?
Go to somewhere where there is an underserved population.
Go to where the demand is.
Go to where the demand is, right? That is something that a lot of people don't want to do. But if you want to get up and going in a relatively reasonable time frame, for example, my friend in Florida, very competitive, right? In Miami. He's been in practice for 3 years.
There's dermatologists on every corner then.
There's more dermatologists than there are McDonald's.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And for him, it's taken him 3 years to get 20 patients a day.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing, is you have to go where the demand is.
Yeah. When you can just as easily go to Miami on vacation.
You go to Miami on vacation every single day. I mean, we're sitting here in Maui.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? We're on vacation.
Totally.
In a way.
That being said, too, I remember one of the biggest lessons I used to teach was learn from somebody else's mistakes. Yeah. Your first job doesn't have to be your last job, and you can learn how to manage a practice by watching others on the job. But at the same time, you have to get your hands dirty and do the work.
Of course.
And again, we're living in an era where people want to come out of residency and be an influencer and not do the job because maybe they don't have the chutzpah to start a practice or
it takes
get their hands dirty.
It takes a lot of grit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of determination, and you have to realize that you will fail.
Yeah.
I've opened offices that I've closed because they were mistakes. Not every decision you make is going to be a good decision. You just want to try to avoid making any catastrophic decisions.
Yeah, catastrophic decisions is key. And it's hard because you're also dealing with employees and people and patients, and where are they all going to go? But at the same time, if it's not sustainable to keep that office open, it's bad for the business. I mean, that one bad apple might cost the rest of the apples.
That's correct, right? So you have to be willing to occasionally cut your losses.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're doing is phenomenal, that you're keeping that number of offices open, maintaining your sanity, keeping your kids, and having a dad, but also just being yourself and not losing your mind. So
thanks, Neal.
Keep that up. That's good.
Thank you.
And this was another installment of the Practical Dermatology Podcast. We'll see you next time.